Hello, and welcome to yet another enriching episode of Furries in the Media. I'm your host, Abergwind, and today, let's look at Sex2k's episode on plushies and furries. Just a heads up, this episode is not safe for work. You have been warned.
Wearing a fursuit can be sexually arousing.
Really? I didn't realize heat stroke was arousing. Well, they got that right. The furry fandom did begin in the 1980s.
Furry is very complicated. It's something a little different to every person, I think.
This is accurate, if not a bit downplayed. However, I think what they failed to mention was that being furry can mean something more innocent to the individual. The only definition of fursuiters offered by the documentary has an emphasis on the adult-oriented side. And again, the point of a fursuit is not to look like a giant stuffed animal, but to become a different character.
A lot of the mainstream has gotten the idea that furry equals bestiality.
And I'm fairly sure, it's in this case, that that's not the case.
Unnecessary mention of bestiality.
Hug and scratch and bounce around and have a good time.
I don't remember seeing a scritching conga line as part of the convention schedule.
Part of the furry, I really think, is sexual attraction. And anyone who says that furry is not a sexual-based fandom is really kind of fooling themselves.
I'm gonna go with no. I don't really think this is the whole story of what this guy believes, but the way the documentary presents this makes it seem like this is the case for all furries.
I've known about furry for like 6 or 7 years, but I've been furry my entire life. For me,
I wouldn't really count face paint on a kid as being a furry. Kids play dress up all the time, and honestly, what kid hasn't worn a tail or pretended to be an animal? It doesn't mean they're gonna grow up to be a furry.
Most furries, when they think of their earliest memories of being furry, the things that first attracted them would be from Saturday morning cartoons and Disney.
Come on, Bub, go.
A lot of furries would agree that Saturday morning cartoons were the first place they were introduced to anthropomorphic characters.
Furry sexuality is just like normal human sexuality, but instead of looking at a spreadsheet from Playboy of a beautiful woman on a bed with big breasts and whatever, you're looking at a picture on your computer of a vixen on a bed with big breasts instead. I've noticed it seems to be the same trends, the same ideas that normal people, mundanes have, but they're just furryized.
This is accurate. Furry porn is not that different from regular porn.
How do you have sex in a fursuit? Most people would go about by putting strategically placed holes in various places on the suit. These can involve just about anything you can think of.
They should have made a distinction between regular fursuits and suits intended for sex. This is like comparing a leather jacket to a leather gimp suit. Yeah, some people are turned on by leather, but wearing a leather jacket does not mean you're turned on by it.
It's not just a thing. It's not a hobby. It's how you view life. You don't view it as a human anymore. You view it from a different standpoint.
Okay, let's pretend that this is the same day of the week 10 years from now. What is going on in your life?
Virtually the same thing. I don't know.
What do you mean virtually the same things? You're going to be sitting in front of the video. What is your work going to be, Michael?
I don't know
what do you see yourself as doing, Michael? What do you see yourself as doing? Do you see yourself serving up hamburgers at McDonald's? Or
I have to go out and do things and find out what I like.
God, this is so staged. And again with the howling. Why? Why do they insist on this? Oh my god, stop.
Well, about the only really big furry word is yeah, which has like 40 different meanings. It's like the sound fox makes, or just a happy sound, or on the other end of the spectrum, it's basically sex.
Yes, it originally had an innocent meaning that took on more adult connotations.
Pervert is a very unpleasant term, kind of like pervert with fur.
It doesn't take a furry to figure out what this one means, but you'd rarely hear it in a serious conversation. It's one of those made-up words, kind of like how bronies would use the word any pony instead of any body.
Pet usually refers to, the pet takes the subservient role. Oftentimes they're seen walking about with a dog collar and leash around them, being led around by their significant other.
Have I mentioned that this dude has the most smooth voice I've heard in a long time? I mean, listen to that!
Led around by their significant other.
Fresh Creamery butter.
This pairing off seems a little too coincidental. I strongly suspect that the documentary set this up.
Oh God. It bothers me that this is so important to him and things that I deem important are not.
From what I've heard, the mother already knew her son was a furry before they started shooting. They're just milking this for all the drama they can get out of it. How did Sex2k come out in the review stats? Accuracy is 67%, and the spirit is 8%, averaging out to 38%. And now time for my thoughts. This documentary was one of the first places where there was confusion between the terms plushophile and furry. A plushophile is a person who collects stuffed animals, and may or may not be aroused by them. Furries may collect their own stuffed animals, but furry is not synonymous with plushophilia. Honestly, I'm not even sure why they even bothered to mention plushophilia, because I don't think there was a single plushophile in the entire documentary. From what I understand, the documentary's producer purposely misled some of the furries in the side interviews as to what the final film would be about. It's actually pretty clear when you watch it a second time. Notice when you listen to some of these furries, there's very little sexual content to what they say, but it seamlessly fits with the show's narrative. Overall, the report is an inaccurate representation of furries because it only focuses on the adult content of the fandom and excludes any innocent side to being a furry. Well, that's it for this episode. Have fun, stay awesome. Bye-bye!